It's 8 o'clock. This is the UK Tonight. Coming up, the organised gangs brazenly dropping drugs into UK prisons. We see firsthand how drones are being used to deliver contraband to inmates behind bars in a new and growing threat to the security of jails across the country.
There is also a concern that some of the large drones that are mostly built for agriculture can actually lift payloads of sort of 80 kilos. I mean, that's a person size.
Also tonight, the head of MI5 admits he was frustrated by the collapse of the China spy case. Stepping out of the shadows and into a political storm, Ken McCullum says he'll never back off from confronting threats from Beijing, as he warned of a daily threat from other state actors. Plus, after months of legal limbo, we hear from Louise Shackleton, the widow finally told that she won't be prosecuted after taking her husband to Dignitas to die. And fans from the Israeli football club Maccabi Tel Aviv are told they are not allowed to attend a Europa League match against Aston Villa over safety fears. Well, that's come much more on the UK Tonight. But we begin tonight with the growing problem of drone drops into UK prisons. Sky News has seen just how easy it is for criminal gangs to drop drugs and other contraband into jails right across the country. There's been a huge jump in drone-related incidents in the last year, with growing fears they could soon be used to actually lift inmates out of their cell windows. Our correspondent Mollie Malone has this special report.
It's the middle of the night and we're outside Wandsworth prison in South London. For hours, the sky was still, almost silent. Until this. That's the sound of a drone making its descent into the prison. It's brazen, it's bold, and it's because of demand. Demand on the inside for what you're about to see. That was a drop of drugs, which were delivered directly to an inmate's window. Watch it again, the drone hovers and then suddenly drops the package. And it wouldn't be the only one of the night.
You can probably still make out that sound. It's just gone 2:30 in the morning and all we've heard for the last 20 minutes or so is drones buzzing across the skyline, heading into Wandsworth prison.
Look carefully at the bottom of the screen. You can make out the package dangling at the end. For a few minutes, it hovered, taking time for precision. And then it dips down into the prison. Again, sources told me this was the delivery of drugs.
What we've just seen is pretty much the biggest problem facing prisons right now. Drones that are able to freely fly over the walls of a jail that's housing serious criminals.
So you sort of see it come in here, hover for a bit, and then it makes that drop.
Come daylight, we showed our pictures to the Prison Governors Association.
That's happening all over the prison estate every day.
But it's pretty brazen.
Yeah, it is pretty brazen.
Brazen perhaps, but showing no sign of stopping.
This is big business. It's worth them doing. It's sophisticated. The payload of these things, we're talking, several kilos. That's a significant. Anything that is valuable in prison that fits within that payload is what you can get in. I mean, there is also a concern that some of the large drones that are mostly built for agriculture can actually lift payloads of sort of 80 kilos. I mean, that's a person size. So there is also the threat of one of these agri-drones coming in and being able to actually lift somebody out of a prison. So these are all the things that we need to be able to combat, because that's part of protecting the public.
And also a need to protect prison staff, as drones are capable of taking in weapons.
And that is what's happening, including here at Wormwood Scrubs, a Category B men's prison in West London. In the summer, a drone transported in a compact pen-sized taser. It's thought for the first time. It was later intercepted by staff, but this is a weapon that can be used to incapacitate someone. In the wrong hands, it can be really dangerous.
In a sign of how serious the authorities are taking it, we obtained an internal email sent around the prison service. saying that the National Crime Agency has tasked police forces with treating the threat of drones as a national priority. It says, under powers used previously only a handful of times, around child sexual exploitation and small boats crossing the English Channel. As dusk turns to dark outside this high-security jail in Worcestershire, inmates can be heard on the inside. Some of them are the country's most dangerous offenders, including terrorists. While from the outside comes this. You hear it before you see it. Zoom in and you'll see again there's a package at the end. Another drone, this time hovering over a Category A prison. In May, we reported on a prison officer that was allegedly stabbed by an inmate at this jail with a knife that sources suggested had come from the outside via a drone. Residents who live nearby have noticed what they say are routine deliveries. We're not showing their faces to protect their identities.
The drone activity is gone almost from nothing to every single day, and they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and we can physically see the parcels that are getting dropped, and they're getting bigger. So from 100 metres away, being able to sort of visually see a package being dropped into a Category A prison, it's unnerving, really.
You could see the rope coming down and whatever it was drop, and then up and straight back across.
You've sort of talked to the authorities about it. What are they saying?
To be honest with you, they're frustrated, you know, and quite frankly feel powerless because there's nothing they can do.
I think this is one of the most serious problems facing prisons at the moment.
This is the Chief Inspector of Prisons.
There we go, and there's a package underneath it.
We showed him the footage we obtained from HMP Long Lartin.
I mean, it's terrifying to see that above a high-security prison. This is a prison that has some serious terrorist offenders. It has organised crime bosses. It has people you really don't want getting their hands on illicit contraband.
Do the prison service have a grip of it, do you think?
Well, I think we're not seeing anything like the levels of action that we would want to see. So we inspected prisons where the netting wasn't in place, the netting over exercise yards. That had fallen down in some places, or it wasn't in place at all. We saw windows at Manchester which were being broken. They hadn't been fixed. We saw CCTV cameras in high-security jails not functioning properly. So, no, the prison services needs to really act to make sure that this problem doesn't get even worse than it currently is.
It is a problem for the prison service that doesn't seem to be going anywhere. There are things in place, signs like this, or netting, but we're talking about organised crime gangs, and they are determined.
There's been a 43% rise in drone incidents in the space of a year, and the tactics can vary. Sometimes these packages of drugs and weapons are disguised as bits of grass or astroturf. At other times, they're heading directly for an inmate's window. And we understand the tech is becoming so sophisticated that they're capable of being piloted from many miles away.
In a statement, the government told us they inherited a prison system in crisis, with drone incidents rising by over 770% between 2019 and 2023. They said, we're taking this risk extremely seriously, which is why we're investing £40 million in new security measures, including exterior netting and reinforced windows, and working with the police to tackle the serious organised criminals behind this threat. Prisons are ultimately about public safety, keeping danger and criminality contained. But at the moment, demand on the inside is driving deliveries from the outside, of drugs, weapons, and even takeaways. The drops we saw were later intercepted by staff, but this is a trade that appears to be easy, accessible, and only getting worse. Mollie Malone, Sky News.
Well, Mollie's here in the studio with me now. And Mollie, you spent a couple of nights looking at the skies above prisons and this problem that has been around for quite a while. This isn't a new problem, but the scale of it now is such that, well, you tell me, you talk me through what you saw that night.
Well, I think what stuck out was just how easy it was. These are walls that to our eye looked completely impenetrable. They're walls that are meant to be keeping criminality contained, danger contained, the public kept safe, and yet drones are flying over them with total impunity in a way, you know, dropping drugs on that particular night at Wandsworth, but sometimes weapons, other times takeaways, you know, just in a sign of how easy it is, seemingly without a care in the world, without not being deterred, not worried about being filmed.
It's blatant.
You know, it's completely blatant, it's brazen. But even if, you know, you hear takeaways and you think it sounds flippant, it sounds easy, make no mistake, it's organised crime operating. It's planned meticulously. Often I'm told these drones are being piloted from many, many miles away, remotely, sometimes even from abroad, but they're looping in teenagers in what's ultimately organised crime. Sometimes that teenager might be used to, say, put the drone on the floor, but the pilot is operating it from perhaps Europe, from many miles away. And that just shows you how difficult it is, I suppose, for the authorities to catch it and clamp down on one particular arrest, one particular individual. It makes that kind of loophole much more easy to kind of, you know, take advantage of, really.
And what's being done about it, you know, practically and politically? Let's talk about the practicalities of it. You know, you stood there with a camera and filmed it. You could hear it, you could see it. It was going on for a large portion overnight. Yeah. Was anything being done around the prison to stop it?
I know, it sounds silly, doesn't it? Almost like, why isn't a prison guard looking out for it? I mean, it's over the walls. It goes right on over. It's loud, but it can head quite easily over the walls. They are aware of it. Things are being done. The police are aware of it. In a sign of how serious they're taking it, the National Crime Agency have said to police forces to treat it as a national priority on par with crimes like small boats. I mean, that shows you how seriously they're taking it. But what can they do about it? I mean, prisoners find ways of getting in these packages. The tactics, as I said in my report, vary, if not directly to the window. That you've got some fish wire, you dangle the package, it goes in through the window. Sometimes these windows are being broken and not replaced, or replaced with materials that are easy to get the packages in through. Sometimes they're disguised as bits of astroturf dropped into exercise yards for prisoners to pick up. The police were there, you know, sometimes they'll be at these prisons, but if they're not catching it there in the moment, and who are they catching? Where's the pilot? They've gone. Do you see what I mean? It's difficult. I mean, look, we did hear from the Metropolitan Police because we were in Wandsworth Scrubs and we were at Wandsworth, and we have had a response from them. They said the Met takes all reports of suspicious drone activity at or near prisons extremely seriously. These incidents can pose significant risks to prison staff, inmates and the wider public. And also heard from West Mercia Police, who are concerned with Worcestershire, which was that Category A prison in my report. They said, we continue to respond robustly and immediately to all reported sightings and intelligence in relation to drones near HMP Long Lartin. As a result of intercepting suspect vehicles, we have prevented drugs, weapons, mobile phones and other contraband from entering the prison, as well as seizing the drones attempting to convey these items in. So they are trying to do things, they are trying to stop it, but it's blatant, it's brazen, it's happening in the middle of the night, but organised crime operating with seemingly total impunity at the moment. OK,
Mollie, I'm going to bring in David Shipley now, former inmate at HMP Wandsworth, who now campaigns for prison reform. Mollie, I know you've spoken to David a number of times about conditions inside prisons. David, thank you so much for joining us on the UK Tonight. First of all, your reaction to what Mollie's report showed us there?
Yeah, it's really depressing, because if you look at Long Lartin, for example, a year ago, Charlie Taylor inspected it, and he described what he found then around the drone situation as being a national security risk, and it's still happening. And I think most prisons in this country, if you went to look at the situation at night, you would probably see something similar happening, and it really is a huge risk to security.
Specifically, we're concentrating on Wandsworth Prison, but, you know, Mollie's seen this happen over a number of prisons in the UK. This is widespread, isn't it? And as I said to Mollie, and as Mollie well knows, she's covered this for some time now, this isn't a new problem. This has been going on for years. But the scale of it now, we're in the realms of serious, organised crime gangs operating this.
That's the key issue, yeah. This is currently being handled locally. So prisons are trying to deal with it locally, local police forces are trying to manage it. But what they're up against is national and even international organised crime gangs. And often you'll get situations where the same drones will have been involved in deliveries to multiple prisons across the country. You know, they're just being taken around the country to run different delivery networks. It's very sophisticated. And unless the Home Office and the Ministry of Justice set up a nationwide system to actually interdict drones, catch drones, try to track the operators of them, this is just going to get worse.
David, hi, it's Mollie. Hey. You will have seen it from Wandsworth. From your perspective, why is it getting worse?
So if you go back to around 2018, actually, there was very little drone activity. Mostly, I think, because it was relatively new technology, and there was this thing called Operation Trenton, which was being run nationwide, which was about not just stopping the drones and catching them, but trying to work out from the drones' black boxes and firmware where they'd come from, go to try to find the operators, arrest them, disrupt the networks. That was brought to an end at the end of 2018. There hasn't really been any nationwide operation going on since then. So we've seen drone numbers just going up and up and up. Drones getting cheaper, partly because of the war in Ukraine, which has developed technology a lot, developed a lot of operator skills. So now you've got drones that can carry 50 kilos or more, which are available commercially. And even now, what we're starting to see is people building their own drones because they're cheaper and they come without transponders and without serial numbers that are harder to track. So it's becoming easier to get drones, easier to use them. The drones can lift more. And there's no real centralised effort to stop them. That's the big problem.
Yeah, David, Mollie in her report, as part of that was saying that these drones are now sophisticated and those used for agriculture could effectively, at some point, take a prisoner from the prison window, lift a prisoner out of prison, which, when you hear that, sounds unbelievable, but it's not. It could actually happen. Talk to us about the impact of drones inside prisons, because we're very much looking at the next step there, but what's the effect of drones on prisons now in taking in drugs and weapons and so on?
Well, it's not just drugs. I mean, I've heard about Ozempic being transported into prisons and being caught on a drone. So essentially, anything a prisoner might want, they can afford to pay for it. They can get it brought in. And often you'll have prisoners who are running sophisticated drug supply networks within prisons using these drones to get their supply in. Once those drugs are in the prison, they will, cause all sorts of problems. You will get debts being incurred by prisoners. There will be violence as a result. There will be deaths in custody from drug use. Often as well, it spills over into the community. So you will get drug debts which have been incurred in prison being enforced in the community. People have had situations where collectors have gone to the family members of prisoners saying, your son owes this many £1,000, you need to pay it or we're going to kill him. So that this is a huge amount of harm done by getting drugs into prison. And then you have weapons. We've talked, I think you, Sky, talked in your reporting about a knife that was taken into a prison, apparently by a drone earlier this year. And that could happen more and more. Similarly, there's nothing really stopping drones being used to take guns into prisons. It's just a matter of prisoners wanting to do that and being willing to pay for it and take the risk. So I think we have to be very, very worried. And I would go back to what Charlie Taylor has said, that this is a national security threat.
Yeah, actually, Mollie, that's a really good point, isn't it? A drone being able to take a gun into prison, the sort of mayhem and danger that would create.
Someone actually suggested to me that the only reason it's not happened so far is because that would then make it even more serious a problem and actually stop the kind of lucrative trade that we're seeing at the moment, because you've got a weapon such as a gun going in. So for now, they want to keep the trade alive, I guess, if you like, rather than stop it. And they think that perhaps getting that kind of weapon in would finally see a stop to it. But I'm interested also in what you think could be done that isn't being done, because we've heard about what's not working, but what can work?
Yeah, well, there's some very basic stuff, which you mentioned in your report, the physical infrastructure that can stop drones, so netting over the wings, netting over the exercise yards to stop and catch drones, windows being repaired so that people can't just put stuff through. There are some prisons, I know Park, for example, has had holes in its windows for well over a year now, and it's just not being repaired. So there's some really basic stuff which should be getting taken charge of by individual prison governors. And then there's also, we need a nationwide strategy. Drones are sophisticated bits of kit. Drone operators are sophisticated, as you've been mentioning. We can't reasonably expect individual police forces or individual prisons to know what to do when they catch a drone. But you can look at the firmware, you can look at they have effectively black boxes on them so you can see where they've been, and a proper intelligence gathering hub should be recreated in order to actually pull all that information together and try to work out who is behind these drone supply networks and go after the people at the top.
David Shipley, former inmate at HMP Wandsworth and now campaigner for prison reform. Thank you so much for your time tonight. And Mollie Malone as well, a special report that you saw there at the top of the programme that sparked that really interesting discussion. Thanks, Mollie. Now, the head of MI5 has admitted he was frustrated by the collapse of the trial of 2 men accused of spying for China. Sir Ken McCallum was responding to the dropping of charges against Christopher Berry and Christopher Cash last month. Both men deny any wrongdoing. The spy chief also said his agency has disrupted a plot linked to Beijing in the last week alone. Our security and defence editor Deborah Haynes has this report.
Stepping out of the shadows to warn about threats amid a very public outcry over the collapse of a China spy trial.
The UK-China relationship is, by its nature, complex, but MI5's role is not. We detect and deal robustly with activity threatening UK national security. Our track record is strong. We've intervened operationally again just in the last week, and we will keep doing so. I am MI5 born and bred. I will never back off from confronting threats to the UK wherever they come from.
Yet backing off is exactly what prosecutors did when they dropped the case against 2 British men accused of spying for China. Former parliamentary researcher Christopher Cash and teacher Christopher Berry deny wrongdoing. The failure to prosecute, clearly painful.
Yes, we are frustrated when those things don't happen. This is not unique. There are sometimes reasons why prosecutions don't work. But the key thing for us to do is to disrupt threats, and that's what we've done.
In an annual speech, Sir Ken McCallum warned that threats from China, as well as Russia and Iran, are escalating.
In the last year, we've seen a 35% increase in the number of individuals we're investigating for involvement in state threat activity. That means espionage, including against our parliament, our universities, our critical infrastructure. But now, states are also consistently descending into ugly methods MI5 is more used to seeing in our terrorism casework.
It's not just hostile states trying to inflict harm. The MI5 boss offered his sympathies to those impacted by the Manchester synagogue terrorist attack.
In 2025, MI5 is contending with more volume and more variety of threat from terrorists and state actors than I've ever seen.
China denied allegations of spying.
We have noted the relevant situation. China's position is very clear. We firmly oppose hyping up so-called espionage activities to smear and vilify China. Such accusations are pure slander. We urge the relevant British individuals to stop making unfounded hype and cease political manipulation.
It can't have been comfortable delivering a speech like this in the middle of the spy trial storm, with opposition MPs accusing the government of interfering in the case to protect trading ties with Beijing. It's perhaps why the head of MI5 chose his words carefully. He said Chinese state actors pose a threat to national security every day. But when it comes to wider foreign policy on Beijing, well, that's a matter for ministers. A delicate balancing act as MI5 navigates what it describes as a new era of threat. Deborah Haynes, Sky News.
So to come on the UK tonight, Israeli football fans banned from attending next month's Europa League match at Aston Villa. Also ahead, a coroner revealing the cause of death of former boxing world champion Ricky Hatton. And we'll be speaking to the former cricketer taking on an epic charity bike ride, all in memory of his late daughter.
I'm Dominic Waghorn, Sky's International Affairs Editor, covering a world that seems to be unravelling.
It's not his country, it's ours.
Sky News, the full story first, free wherever you get your news. It's half an hour now past the deadline that Hamas issued, and we've now seen a third barrage of rockets coming in.
Israeli football fans are not going to be allowed to attend next month's Maccabi Tel Aviv match against Aston Villa in Birmingham over safety concerns. Police say the decision was based partly on what happened in Amsterdam last year, when the club's fans were the target of anti-Semitic attacks. Well, our sports correspondent Rob Harris is across this story for us this evening. Rob, what's happened?
Well, this had been brewing for some time. The local MP had called for this game to have Israeli fans banned or indeed to be cancelled completely. What we've had now is the decision from the Birmingham City Council group to decide it just won't be safe enough to allow the Israeli fans to attend this Europa League match in 3 weeks. They're talking as well, the club, about the threat of pro-Palestinian protests that could take place, which could create a very problematic scenario. And they're referencing what happened in Amsterdam around a year ago. That's when Israeli fans were set on in the city. There were various locals convicted of attacks. The Israeli fans were also accused of some anti-Arab chants as well. But what we're hearing from West Midlands Police, they're saying that based on our professional judgment, we believe this measure, banning Israeli fans, will help to mitigate risks to public safety. OK, so it's all over safety concerns, but obviously this is all wrapped up in politics. What's the political reaction to this decision been? Well, this has created a brewing diplomatic row. The Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Saar has called it a shameful decision. I will call on the UK authorities to reverse this cowardly decision. The Campaign Against Anti-Semitism group has said here it's yet another alarming sign of how British authorities are failing to ensure that Jews can participate safely and equally in public life. Now, it was only 2 weeks ago that we had the deadly terror attack on the synagogue in Manchester. And today, the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, was at an anti-Semitism event, reassuring the Jewish community, saying about doing more to protect the community, saying he'd leave no stone unturned. Well, now we've had this decision from a Labour-run council. For their own safety, yeah. And we've heard from the Conservative leader, Kemi Badenoch, who's issued a statement saying, this is a national disgrace. How have things come to this? Starmer pledged that Jews are welcome and safe in Britain, that he stands shoulder to shoulder with the Jewish community and will use the force of his government to prove it. Will he back those words with action and guarantee that Jewish fans can walk into any football stadium in this country? If not, it sends a horrendous and shameful message. There are parts of Britain where Jews simply cannot go. And that will be the concern that's created. There were some calls to ban Israeli teams completely from European competitions over the war in Gaza. Those calls faded as we had the peace deal, and indeed the Trump administration told us at Sky News they would intervene to block it. And indeed, normally it's UEFA that decides whether to ban fans, not, as we've seen in this case, the local authorities. Yeah, with this, is there any sense that there could be a U-turn? Because obviously strong political reaction to this, or is this a decision that's now set in stone? Well, at UEFA, they're due to be in contact with authorities in Birmingham. Yeah. They are bouncing this around government. No government department here wanting to speak about it yet. It creates an issue. Does Keir Starmer take on a Labour council? It will raise questions. Is Birmingham safe to hold international sporting events now if they can't protect the safety of visiting fans? And, of course, Birmingham is well used to very potentially challenging football fixtures with Birmingham City and Aston Villa, local derbies, big matches as well. Yeah, OK. All right, Rob, thank you. Rob Harris with the latest on that story that broke a little earlier this afternoon. Now, the cause of death of former boxing champion Ricky Hatton has been revealed at an inquest. The 46-year-old was discovered unresponsive by his manager at his home in Greater Manchester last month. It's understood he took his own life. Our correspondent Katie Barnfield was at Stockport Coroner's Court today.
Well, Greater Manchester Police Coroner's Officer Alison Catlow confirmed at the opening of the inquest this morning that Ricky Hatton was found dead at his home in Hyde in Greater Manchester on the 14th of September this year. She said he was aged just 46 at the time and that he was single and lived alone. She told the court he was last seen by family members on the 12th of September. The day afterwards, on September the 13th, he'd failed to attend an event as expected. It was then the morning of the 14th of September that his manager Paul Speake went to his home to collect him for a flight to Dubai, and he was then found unresponsive. Now, former world champion boxer, of course, was a hugely popular figure in the sporting world. His funeral last week was attended by thousands and a range of celebrities, from Liam Gallagher to Tyson Fury. And he'd only announced in July this year plans to come out of retirement for his first professional fight in 13 years. Now, the senior coroner, Alison Much, led the inquest here this morning, the opening of the inquest, and she said that Ricky Hatton's family had decided not to attend, and they were represented instead by his manager, Paul Speake, who was in attendance for the brief 10-minute hearing. She has confirmed, though, a full inquest will now go ahead next year, and that will begin here at Manchester South Coroner's Court next year on the 20th of March.
Well, you see the details on your screen there. If you have been affected by this story and you want to talk to someone, you can call the Samaritans anytime. 116 123 is their number, or email joe@samaritans.org. Still to come on the UK tonight, why victims of crime in England and Wales are losing confidence in the justice system. We'll be speaking to London's Victims Commissioner. Plus, after months in legal limbo, we hear from the widow finally told that she won't be prosecuted for accompanying her husband to Dignitas. Welcome back. Now, one of the biggest ever surveys of victims of crime in England and Wales has revealed widespread low levels of confidence in the justice system. The review by the Victims Commissioner found fewer than half of victims believe that they can get justice for crimes committed against them. Testimony from more than 6,500 victims uncovered systemic issues of poor communication, extensive delays, and failure to deliver statutory rights. Claire Waxman is London's Victim Commissioner and joins me now. Claire, really good to see you. Thank you so much for coming onto the programme to talk about this. Makes pretty depressing reading, let's face it.
It is, unfortunately. Sadly, it's not new. It's what we've spoken about for many years now and have been trying to drive improvements both in London, and I know Baroness Newlove has been trying to drive that nationally, to get a better response to victims when they report to the police and make their way through that criminal justice system. And so what this survey has shown us is that we still need to make quite a lot of progress to obviously improve trust and confidence amongst victims and the wider public. And the agencies, the police and the wider criminal justice system need to be better at delivering victims their rights and entitlements and a better service and a better response when they report.
It chimes a lot with many of the stories we cover here on the UK Tonight. Victims of crime who have felt let down at the first hurdle when it comes to reporting to police, or further along, often finding themselves going through a long and lengthy process and then never getting their day in court. And of course, as London's Victims Commissioner, you hear this on the daily. What's being done to, well, improve the system for one, but improve confidence in it for another?
So, I mean, I've been working very closely in London with the Met Police and the CPS within London, and they have taken a lot of steps to try and drive improvement and a better response. Obviously, we're working against a lot of issues, scandals within policing, not just within the Met Police force, but across the country, and that erodes trust and confidence. Obviously, the lack of resources and funding within police and the wider criminal justice system, so it's been chronically underfunded for many years. And what we now have is a criminal justice system that is struggling to cope. And we have record Crown Court backlogs, so victims who are coming into the system are just waiting years to get into court. So that's obviously impacting many, and they're feeling unable to wait those long delays and having to come out of the process. But with the Met, we've been working very closely on what they can improve upon. And so the figures that we've seen in this survey, you know, only sort of low numbers being made aware of the Victims Code, their rights under the Victims Code, that's a lot higher in London. I'm pleased to say that the Met makes sure that the Victims Code and details around it are delivered to victims when they report through a victim information leaflet. The numbers of referrals to support services are a lot higher than what we're seeing in that survey. So although this picture is quite negative, I am seeing a better picture in London with the Met Police in relation to compliance with the Victims Code. But that's taken many years of work with them to try and drive those improvements. But we need to see that now nationally and across the country.
Yeah, just looking into those figures a bit more, as I said, around 6,500 people giving their verdict on the UK justice system, on England and Wales justice system. I'd be interested to know how that broke down in terms of, you know, demographics. I mean, we know only too well, we've spoken about this before, how women, for example, feel about the justice system. Also, the LGBTQ plus community, and particularly religious groups now in the UK as well. What did this report take into account any of those groups and their concerns in particular?
Yeah, I mean, the survey identified that those that were having the lower trust and confidence coming forward and reporting were exactly those groups. Were women, LGBTQ+, disabled community, those Asian, Black victims, young victims. And actually that very much chimes with a piece of research that I published in the summer around victim attrition. That's when victims report to the police and then choose to withdraw, or don't choose, feel almost forced to come out of the justice process. It's the same groups. And that's because those groups really, there are systemic biases. There's many barriers and challenges to access justice, but for those groups, there are even more challenges and more barriers. And that's the problem, that there's no sort of equal access to justice and support in this country. And that's something we really need to tackle. And for women, you know, we hear it all the time from violence against women and girls offences, for those trying to report rape. There are lots of issues and barriers. And for those in hate crime, we've seen a surge in anti-Semitism and in anti-Muslim hatred. And we're seeing real difficulties for those victims getting the right response from police.
Claire, you talk about, you know, as London Victims Commissioner, you're making strides. You feel that the Met Police are improving, are taking this seriously. You're set to become Victims Commissioner from January next year. What are going to be some of your main priorities in this area?
Well, I mean, my main priority is obviously to ensure there's a much more consistent and high-level response to victims when they report to the police. We can see from this survey that across the country, we need to drive real progress and improvements. Victims should be made aware of their rights. They need to be accessing rights under the Victims Code. And we need to see a much more streamlined support service being given to them when they report to the police. And that's something I really want to take forward. Victims come forward, the system is really lengthy, it's complex, it's fragmented, and it's so difficult to navigate. We can deliver a much better standard of service and streamline it and give victims a single point of contact when they come into that criminal justice system. And that's something I really want to take forward when I come into the role in January.
Yeah, at the end of the day, victims just want to be spoken to like human beings in layman's terms, you know, in a way they can understand at, you know, often the most difficult points of their lives. Claire, thank you. Always good to talk. Claire Waxman there, London's Victims Commission. I'm sure we'll speak again soon. Thanks, Claire. A woman who helped her husband take his own life at the Dignitas clinic in Switzerland has been told that she won't face criminal charges. Louise Shackleton had been under investigation for assisted suicide after handing herself into police last December. Her husband, Anthony, had been battling motor neurone disease for 6 years at the time of his death. Louise spoke to our Chief North of England correspondent, Greg Milam.
It's been 10 months since Anthony Shackleton took his own life at the Dignitas clinic in Switzerland. 10 months that his wife, Louise, has been under investigation for assisting in his suicide. Now police have told her that it's not in the public interest to prosecute her.
Well, I'm not surprised. Really, in reality, I didn't commit a crime. The reality is I enabled my husband to get to a place that he wanted to be and to do what he wanted to do. I knew nothing would come of it because there was no coercion. I didn't do anything, in fact, quite the opposite. I was trying to make him not end his life sooner than he should, as most people do. I could have stopped it, I could have stopped him, but why would I do that? Why would I stop his will? You know, he died like he lived, you know, with dignity. People shouldn't have to go through this. In the darkest days of our lives, we're treated like criminals, and that is just unfair.
Anthony had battled motor neurone disease for years before deciding to take his own life.
Do you have any regrets now?
No, I don't. The regret I have is that other people are going to make this journey and have to make this journey and be left in limbo like I've been left in. My heart aches that at least one person a week just from England is having to make that journey, and their loved ones in the deepest, darkest part of their lives is going to have to go through a police investigation.
She's become a vocal supporter of the assisted dying bill, making its way through Parliament.
People should have the right for the choice. And I know that people will say, I don't agree with that, I don't think this should happen. That's absolutely fine, and I absolutely respect that. And I've talked to a lot of people, and I see their point of view. But however, because you don't want something, it doesn't mean you should stop someone else doing something.
The end of the investigation has brought her something else.
The police investigated. What I noticed that what they didn't do is they didn't take my husband's electronic equipment. And being aware, I didn't want to taint any evidence, as we call it. I opened his phone, but I didn't open his laptop. I found out just after my birthday, on the 3rd of October, that there would be no further action. So I opened it, and in there was a letter to me from him. I won't go into what it said because it's really personal. And for nearly 10 months, I've been denied that letter. And that letter that could have helped. That could have helped a lot. And I've been denied that. And that's wrong. Sorry. That's wrong. There was words in there that, you know, I should have had then, that he meant for me to have then. And I couldn't have them.
Greg Milam, Sky News.
Well, if you've been affected by this story and you want someone to talk to, the Samaritans is on 116123. Their email joe@samaritans.org. Still to come on the programme. We'll be speaking to the former cricketer Steve James about his most gruelling charity cycle to date, all in memory of his late daughter. And in the sport bulletin, British tennis #1 Emma Raducanu ends her season early because of illness.
Sky News has been given exclusive data showing every Palestinian who has been killed in Gaza since the war began. Our analysis of this pattern in the killings suggests that entire families were wiped out in their homes or shelters. The data and forensics team is a multi-skilled unit dedicated to providing transparent journalism from Sky News. We located footage of the airdrop to a tent camp in central Gaza.
These airdrops are falling in extremely populated areas.
We combine traditional reporting with advanced analysis of satellite imagery, social media, and other open source information. Now, this is just one of the strikes and incidents we've been able to geolocate across Gaza. Sky News has found Nazi speeches and marching music have been used as background sound on tens of thousands of TikTok videos as far-right groups try and spread their message. Sky News has seen 72,000 posts used in this way. There's no evidence yet of foul play at Heathrow. It shows weaknesses that enemies could take advantage of. Elon Musk says it is, quote, a viper's nest of radical left Marxists who hate America. Supporters say it saves lives and projects American power and influence.
I think we would generally be called far right, sure.
It's called Return to the Land, and they invited me in.
A lot of people are going to be, why are you making Nazi references?
Right. Well, why wouldn't I?
Its founder says he is building a fortress for the white race.
It's a racial association. I kind of want to ask you, after seeing this, do you think what we're doing is immoral?
We followed a social media trail that led us to Bristol, where a confrontation between protesters erupted into a full-scale riot.
Here it really is pitched battle skirmishes, hurling missiles, throwing punches.
I'm Tom Cheshire, Sky's data and forensics correspondent.
Gives you the very best of Sky News wherever you are. Breaking news, videos and analysis.
Evidence of the crisis.
Podcasts, watching us live. I'm live in Jerusalem.
Wherever you get your podcast.
All in one place and all at just the touch of a screen. The Sky News app. Get the full story first.
Hello, welcome back. Jess is here with the sport. Are you ready, Jess?
I am.
Yeah, good. The things you don't see in the break. Jess putting a bit of lippy on.
Noticed. No one
getting
noticed.
ready. No, but I've just outed you. It's OK. We like it when that happens, but you're a professional with 2 seconds to go. We are talking about Emma Raducanu. She's brought an end to her season really early because she's had a couple of really difficult weeks in China.
Yeah, she's had a really tough couple of weeks, so she's ended it 2 weeks early. She's been out in China, as you rightly say, but she's been dealing with some physical issues. So last week she was playing a match and she had to retire from that match early. She was having her blood pressure checked on the court mid-match. She decided that the best thing for her to do at that time was to end that match early. And then earlier this week, she was also playing again a tournament in China, and she went out in the first round of that tournament, which is not what you want to see from the British #1. And she went out to a player outside the world's top 200. So, yeah, a sad end to the season for the British #1. But hopefully it won't be too long until she's back up and running again.
Yeah, and I wonder if the fact that she's had a pretty good season gave her the confidence to make that decision that's best for herself and her health, because she's played plenty of matches this year and she's actually climbed up the world rankings, hasn't she?
She really has. And I think part of this comes down to this intense scrutiny and this expectation that tennis fans have is because she did this incredible thing as an 18-year-old by winning that US Open all those years ago. But yes, she has had an impressive season. She started the year in 56th. She's now worked her way up to 29th. It's the first time she's been in the world's top 30 for 3 years. She's played more matches than ever. She played 50 matches this season. Last season, it was only 36, so her body's obviously coming to terms with that, and mentally, she's still coming to terms with that. It's a long, old tennis season. And she has this new coach, who she said she's going to stick with into 2026. So lots of positive signs for the British #1. Be really good to see what she can do next year. And look, SJ, it won't be long before we're talking about the next major, the Australian Open, which is only in January. So not long till we see her back on the court.
Yeah, the season comes back around pretty quickly.
Really quickly, really quickly. And speaking of really quickly, we've got much more to come in the bulletin in the rest of the day's sport as well.
Staying connected is vital for business. Sky Business sponsors this report.
Touré, absolutely brilliant. Yaya Touré tries to place it and does. Yaya Touré just have delivered the Premier League title as well.
When I started from my academy, I always loved goals. During my career, he was thinking about me not defending or running backwards, but I always keep in my mind always in the same way, like enjoying football, share that with fans, and be happy with something, you know what I mean? Because I've never been happy chasing people. I've always been happy when people chasing me. I was playing midfielder, and sometimes I have to do my duty as defending, try to protect the defense, the fullbacks. But it's only one ball. Two guys can do.
Sky Business sponsors this report.
Now, former England and Glamorgan cricketer Steve James lost his daughter in February 2020 when she died unexpectedly at the age of just 21. A coroner ruling that Beth Ann died of sepsis and pneumonia because of failings at University Hospital Wales. Since Beth Ann's death, Steve founded the Bike for Beth Ann charity cycle, which aims to keep her legacy going and raise money for several different charities close to the family's hearts. On Saturday, Steve will be taking on his latest challenge, cycling 220 miles in just one day. Well, I'm pleased to say we can speak to Steve now. Steve, hello.
Hi, Sarah-Jane, how are you?
Yeah, I'm very good. More importantly, how are you? A casual 220 miles for you?
Yeah, nervous. So it's the third challenge I've done. I've done one every other year since 2021, and it's between Cardiff and Narberth in Pembrokeshire in West Wales, which were Bethan's two favourite places. So the first year I just did Cardiff to Narberth. The second time I did Cardiff to Narberth and back, but in 2 days. So this time I thought I might have to make it even harder. So I'm going to try and do it all in one day. But I'm slightly regretting that decision now with a couple of days left.
Oh, well, look, we're looking at some lovely pictures of you and your family there. Bethan at the front, just saw a lovely picture of you with her when she was just a tiny toddler. Talk to me about how she underpins everything you're doing. As she said, you're cycling between two of her favourite spots this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, obviously her death has shattered the family and myself, my wife Jane and my son Reese. It's something you can never get over, and it was still really struggling to come to terms with what happened. And the inquest was only this year, taking 5 years for that inquest to happen. So it's been a really tough time for us, and this was just one thing I thought I could try and do. I'm doing it for 3 charities. So one of them is To Wish, which is the bereavement charity set up by Rhea Mannings, who's been in the news quite a bit recently. It's a Welsh charity which has now branched over into England. Then there's the Cricketers Trust, which is part of the Professional Cricketers Association, who've helped me and helped so many other ex-cricketers when they fall on hard times. And then the other one is Crohn's and Colitis UK, because Bethan had Crohn's disease. She was diagnosed with that a year before she died, and she was it's a terrible disease, Crohn's, and she was so keen to be an ambassador for that. So yeah, just trying to keep Bethan's name alive and trying to raise funds for 3 charities, as you say, which are very close to us, and we're very close to Bethan as well.
Well, Steve, we're looking at you and your lycra there, all the gear, some sort of idea, because it looks like there's been a bit of training going on. As you said, this is not your first challenge. Talk to me about the support you're getting. Are you doing this on your own, or have you got others going with you?
So, I am a keen cyclist, but I am 58 now and got wonky knees and probably not as fit as I used to be. So the furthest I've ridden in a day is 140 odd miles. So this is a significant challenge for me. There are some friends who are helping me. None of them are actually doing the whole ride, but they're doing bits of it. Some of them are riding down and some of them are riding back. One of my friends is in a support car as well. But hopefully I'll have some company for the most part anyway. Yeah, but the weather's looking quite good. It's not going to rain, I don't think, which is good news.
Is it? I was going to ask that because, that does set the tone, doesn't it? I mean...
It does.
The thought of Bethan will drive you on, will get you to that finish line. But you're going to need your friends.
When I get into some tough times, which I'm sure I will, I think it's probably going to take me at least 14 hours, probably. So we're going to be looking quite late at night on Saturday when I get back. The only problem with the weather is it's going to be an easterly wind, which means I'm going into the wind on the way back, all the way back. So some people suggested I maybe should do it the other way around, but it's a bit late for that. So we're going to have to be into the wind for the last bit.
Oh, God, yeah, probably too late to change the route. And hopefully some of your friends there will be...
on the front,
joining in the last leg, maybe, because that'll be the difficult bit, won't
yeah, they
it?
will. They'll be on the front and I'll be in the wheels, definitely, yeah.
Well, listen, where can people donate, Steve? Because that's the important bit, isn't it?
Yeah, we've got a GoFundMe page, which you can find online. We've had some magnificent support so far, but yeah, obviously looking for lots more support today and tomorrow and Saturday for 3 great causes, as I said.
And Steve, finally, what do you think Bethan would make of these challenges?
Yeah, I think she'd be slightly bemused, but I don't know if you saw in the photos there, lots of pink. Pink was her favourite colour, so we're wearing lots of pink. I've even got pink handlebars this time, so all in memory of Bethan.
Look, they're not going to be able to miss you on that ride. Lots of people, I'm sure, will turn out to cheer you on the way. Steve James, sports journalist and former cricketer, remembering his daughter Bethan on his challenge this weekend. So good to see you and good luck.
Thank you, Sarah-Jane. Thank you.
Well, incredible that. I will tweet the charity link and put it up on social media as well if you fancy donating. That's all from the UK tonight. We will return on Monday at 8. Matt Barbette will be in the hot seat. Up next, it's Mark Austin with The World from Jerusalem.